So, what if the reason you keep having, the exact same fight with your partner has absolutely nothing to do with them?
Right.
And like literally everything to do with ancient mutating DNA.
Which sounds completely wild when you first hear it.
Oh, totally wild. Because, I mean, we usually approach relationships with this expectation of, simple mechanics.
Yeah.
You learn like active listening, or you try to split the chores fairly, or you schedule a date night.
Yeah.
And the couples therapist just sort of points at your relationship and says, there it is, it's fixed.
You've done the homework.
Right. But today's source material takes that neat little behavioral toolkit and just throws it entirely out the window. We are looking at a really intensely philosophical, almost prophetic audio excerpt today, and it details something called the 59th gene key. And it basically frames human relationships not as a negotiation between two people, but as this crucible for cellular human evolution.
Yeah, it is a massive, radical departure from mainstream psychology. And I think to even approach this text, we have to establish a quick foundational understanding of what a gene key actually is in this framework.
Yeah, let's do that, because it's a lot.
It is. So the source material comes from this synthesized system. It blends the 64 hexagrams of the ancient Chinese I Ching with astrology and the 64 codons of human DNA. So the core premise of this author's whole philosophy is that our attitudes and our emotional states directly dictate our genetic expression.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the 59th gene key isn't just a metaphor for like a relationship dynamic. The text posits it as an actual physical sequence of coding inside us that governs how we experience intimacy. And the author even notes that he's had to update this specific audio multiple times because the energy of this genetic sequence is currently mutating at a really rapid pace.
Which sets some incredibly high stakes for this deep dive.
Oh, absolutely.
So the mission here today is to kind of trace this proposed evolutionary roadmap. The source argues that to reach the ultimate expression of human connection, we have to move through three distinct phases.
Right, like a ladder.
Exactly. We start at the bottom with a deeply uncomfortable state called the shadow of dishonesty. From there, we grind through this painful transformative process into the gift of intimacy. And eventually, the text claims we're heading toward this futuristic, almost sci-fi state of collective existence called transparency.
Yeah, and for anyone listening who feels stuck in those repetitive relationship loops or burdened by unexplainable emotional baggage, you are going to find this incredibly relevant.
For sure.
The text suggests that the chaotic energy we're seeing in humanity right now is actually a necessary symptom of this genetic transition. But before we get to, the grand cosmic evolution, the source forces us to look at the immediate roadblock standing our way.
Right, it's a shadow.
Yeah, the shadow of dishonesty.
Okay, so let's unpack this, because when I read the word dishonesty, my mind instantly goes to, deception. This is like hiding a text message or lying about where I was on a Friday night. But the source frames it entirely differently. It opens with this quote from the mythical wizard Merlin.
Oh, yeah, the Merlin quote.
Yeah. Whenever a man tells a lie, he kills a part of the world. Which, I mean, that feels incredibly heavy for just telling your partner you like their cooking when you really didn't.
Well, yeah, but the author isn't talking about social white lies here. This shadow of dishonesty is framed as a profound inward game of self-deception.
Okay.
The text asks a very pointed question, which is, how honest are you with yourself about the source of your own suffering?
Oh, wow. That is pointed.
Right, because we tell ourselves constant narrative lies to justify our reactive behavior.
Yeah.
And the most common mechanism for this inward dishonesty is projection. We project our internal discomfort onto our partners or onto the world at large just to avoid looking at the root cause.
So it's the classic dynamic of, it's never my fault I snapped at you. It's your fault because you stressed me out.
Yeah.
Like I'm justifying my anger by making you the villain of the moment.
And the trap there is that we actually believe our own narrative. Like, we think we are being self-aware by pointing out our partner's flaws. But the text argues this is the ultimate inner dishonesty.
Because we're looking outward instead of inward.
Right. We refuse to acknowledge what's actually triggering our nervous system. And according to this framework, the root of that dilemma isn't just, say, a bad breakup you had in your 20s.
Right.
Or even how your parents raised you. The source explains this trauma is ancient. It's sacked physically inside the souls of our body as what the ancients called sanskaras.
Okay, I want to pause on that term, sanskaras, because it sounds highly esoteric.
It does.
The text defines it as wound slates from past incarnations. Now, for the listener who might not subscribe to the idea of past lives, how do we ground this concept? Are we talking about something like epigenetic inheritance here?
Yeah, that is definitely the most accessible scientific bridge to this mystical concept. So epigenetics shows us that trauma experienced by our ancestors, like famines, wars, severe stress,
Yeah.
can leave chemical marks on our DNA that affect how our genes are expressed generations later.
Wow.
But the source takes this a step further into the spiritual realm, suggesting that because DNA is the historical code of life, you literally carry the unresolved emotional wounding of your entire bloodline. So your overreaction to a perceived slight from your spouse isn't just about the dishes.
Right.
It's the echoed terror of an ancestor.
That is so wild. It's like we're carrying generations of this heavy, ancient luggage, but instead of unzipping the bags to see what's actually inside them, we just stand in the airport and yell at the person standing next to us for making our arms tired.
That is a perfect analogy. And let's push that even further based on the text. Because you aren't just yelling at the person next to you. You are actively playing a massive game of hide and seek with your own luggage.
What do you mean?
Well, the source notes that because we unconsciously sense the sheer weight and the pain inside those bags, we will engineer massive distractions to avoid unpacking them.
Oh, the geographic cure.
Yeah.
Like we move to a different country, or we quit our jobs, or we dive headfirst into a brand new romantic relationship, all just to find some kind of clean slate.
Exactly. But the text is pretty unforgiving about this. The luggage always comes with you.
Because you literally can't leave it behind.
Right. It follows you because it is quite literally encoded into your biology.
Hmm.
The source points out that this is the mechanism behind why people get caught in the exact same toxic relationship patterns with completely different partners.
Oh.
You change the external variable, but the internal sanskara remains untriggered only temporarily.
Just for the honeymoon phase.
Right, just for the honeymoon phase.
Okay.
And once that ends, the ancient wound surfaces and the inward dishonesty kicks in all over again. We immediately blame the new partner for the same old feeling.
It's so unfair to the new person.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the author even calls out how we use spiritual concepts to maintain this dishonesty.
Yeah.
Using therapy speak or spiritual knowledge to put our partner down and make ourselves seem right.
Oh, weaponized spirituality.
Yes, exactly.
I see that all the time. It's like, well, I'm just protecting my peace and you're too low vibration for me.
Yeah, exactly.
When really you're just running away from a trigger.
Yep.
So, okay, if running to a new country or swiping right on the new person doesn't work, how does the source actually propose we break this loop? Because, telling people to just feel their pain usually triggers a massive defensive response.
It does. And this is where the author introduces the concept of karma, but he strips away the usual pop culture definition of, what goes around comes around.
Okay, so how does he define it?
Karma, in the context of the 59th gene key, is defined as a contract of ancient debt. So if there is a recurring friction in a relationship right now, the text views it as an unpaid emotional debt. And to pay it off, the source offers a very provocative metaphor. It describes all the trauma your body feels as an envelope of pain sent by God.
Hey, I really struggled with this part of the reading.
I'm not surprised.
Framing trauma as an envelope of pain sent by God sounds terrifying and, frankly, a bit masochistic.
Yeah, it.
Because human biology is hardwired to avoid pain. Like, if I touch a hot stove, I pull my hand back, I don't leave it there. Now, this text is telling me to deliberately open an envelope of agonizing emotional pain. No wonder we keep handing the envelope to our partners in the form of a triggered reaction.
The resistance you're describing is entirely natural, and the source completely validates that fear of opening the envelope. But it challenges the biological instinct to pull away, arguing that emotional pain operates on a completely different axis than physical danger.
How so?
Well, the secret inside the metaphor, according to the author, is that when you finally muster the courage to open the envelope, to sit with the raw sensation of the trauma without crafting a story about who caused it, you find that the envelope actually contains love.
Okay, walk me through the psychological mechanics of that. Because how does leaning into a feeling of deep abandonment or rage suddenly transform into love? That feels like a massive leap.
It's a leap, yeah. But the catalyst for that transformation is self-compassion. The source instructs us to treat these ancient inner wounds exactly as you would treat a helpless, terrified child.
Okay.
Like if a toddler is screaming in terror, you don't use logic with them, right?
No, definitely not.
And you certainly don't yell at them. You hold them. You provide a stabilizing presence of loving awareness. So when you apply that to your own nervous system, feeling the physical contraction in your chest or your stomach, but wrapping it in gentle observation, the pain exhausts its energetic charge.
Right. And the text points out that we don't have to do this in total isolation. Like, it suggests calling on the supportive energy of a saint, a spiritual figure, or even a deeply trusted friend.
Yeah, you can ask for energetic support.
But the actual alchemy has to happen inside our own bodies. Like, we can't ask the friend to fix it for us.
No, the internal locus of control is totally non-negotiable here. When you process the pain without projecting it outward as blame, the source claims a spontaneous breakthrough occurs. The energetic density of the trauma basically dissolves, and it creates this physical sensation of spaciousness around your heart.
Wow.
And the most striking result of this inward process is what happens to your perception of the person who originally triggered you.
Right. Because the text states that once you metabolize the pain yourself, the negativity you held toward that person's behavior completely evaporates.
Exactly.
Like, it's not that you logically forgive them, it's that the hook is just gone. They could do the exact same annoying or hurtful thing, and your nervous system simply wouldn't react. The debt is paid.
Because you've rooted out your own dishonesty. You no longer require them to behave in a specific way for you to feel safe. And the source frames this individual inner cleansing as part of a much larger macrocosmic event. It notes that humanity is currently undergoing a collective purging of these ancient wounds.
Which brings us to the bridge between psychology and genetics. And honestly, this is where the claims get truly wild.
Yeah, strap in.
Right. The source argues that doing this inner shadow work doesn't just make you a calmer partner, it literally changes your genetics. It initiates a mutation into the 59th gift, which is the gift of intimacy. But by what mechanism is a psychological realization supposedly causing a physical genetic mutation?
Well, the author relies heavily on the concept we discussed earlier, that emotion is the primary epigenetic signaling mechanism. So the theory is that living in the shadow of dishonesty keeps our DNA locked in survival mode, expressing stress hormones and defensive physical postures.
Fight or flight.
Exactly. But when you transmute that fear into love through self-compassion, you change your internal biochemical environment. According to the text, this sustained frequency of unconditional love signals dormant sequences in our DNA to unlock.
That is fascinating. And the author places this mutation against the backdrop of the 55th gene key, which is described as this massive evolutionary transition period for the entire human species.
Right, the 55th is like the umbrella over all of that.
Yeah, and the 59th key basically acts as the wrecking ball for this transition. The text bluntly states that it is tearing us apart from the inside, dismantling our old psychological structures to make us empty vessels.
And the term empty vessel is really important. It implies a complete surrender of our defensive ego structures. Like, we have to be emptied of our ancestral trauma to make room for a radically new kind of human functioning. And this entirely redefines the concept of intimacy.
It really does, because when society talks about intimacy, we usually picture romance, candlelight, deep, vulnerable conversations late at night.
Lying on the couch.
Right. But the source dismisses our current version of intimacy as superficial. It argues that true intimacy is the process of one individual heart opening up to the universal heart. It's an energetic sharing of awareness.
Yeah. And the text suggests the closest glimpse we currently have of this is the intense infatuation phase of falling deeply in love. That boundary blurring sensation where you feel the other person inside your own being, even across physical distances.
Yeah, that new relationship energy.
Right. But the author claims that this biological drive for romantic union is actually just an evolutionary stepping stone. All relationships right now are simply acting as clearinghouses for collective trauma.
Which brings up the text's redefinition of a highly misunderstood word, which is tantra.
Oh, yes.
It explicitly says we are moving from trauma to tantra. Now, usually when people hear tantra, they think of couples retreats in Sedona and esoteric breathing exercises.
A lot of eye gazing.
A lot of eye gazing. But the source pulls the concept out of the workshop and drops it directly into the mundane reality of our lives.
It does. The author defines Tantra in a very classical, alchemical sense. It is the sublimation of friction, suffering, and raw sexual energy into higher consciousness. The friction of your relationship isn't an obstacle to your spiritual growth. It's the exact fuel required for it.
I love how practical that actually becomes.
Right.
Like, the tantra isn't a breathing technique. It's doing the dishes with a partner who is getting on your last nerve and actively choosing to keep your heart open instead of snapping at them. Your destiny provides the exact frustrating ingredients you need to force this mutation.
It frames daily life as an intensely internal laboratory. You are primarily becoming intimate with your own heart's fluctuations. However, the text provides a vital caveat so this doesn't veer into toxicity.
Okay, what's that?
It states that true intimacy is an equal blend of honesty and kindness.
That distinction is crucial. Because honesty can be weaponized, too. Like, you shouldn't just trauma dump all your raw, unprocessed pain onto your partner and claim you're being intimate and honest.
No, doing so would lack kindness. And often, it simply overwhelms the other person's nervous system, causing them to shut down completely. The text suggests that the most profound transformations actually occur in the silent chemistry field between two people.
The silent chemistry field, I like that.
Yeah. So you metabolize the fear inwardly. You maintain your physical presence. You listen deeply, but you don't necessarily need to talk the trauma to death.
The magic moment described in the text is when you finally let go of the demand that the other person change.
Yes.
The source claims that when someone feels that pressure lift, when they sense this kind of disinterested, unconditional love from you, they are suddenly granted the psychological safety to finally look at their own trauma.
But the author is realistic here. He notes that even if they don't look at their trauma, even if they continue to project their pain onto you, the mutation within you means it simply doesn't hook you anymore.
You're just immune.
Basically.
Yeah.
You might recognize that they're on a slower evolutionary timeline, but their defensive behavior no longer triggers your heart to close.
So if these everyday relationship triggers are the messy training ground, where is this evolutionary timeline actually taking us? Because this is the point in the deep dive where the source takes a massive prophetic leap into the final phase.
The CD of transparency.
CD of transparency.
Right. And to clarify the terminology, a CD in this framework refers to a divine gift or the ultimate evolutionary endpoint of a specific genetic sequence.
Okay.
This is where the text completely leaves the realm of everyday psychology and enters a vision of cosmic evolution. And we have to acknowledge that the author knows how jarring this pivot is. He explicitly warns the reader that this vision might sound like the fantastical, whimsical raving of a deluded soul.
I really appreciate that journalistic distance from the author himself.
It helps.
He basically says, look, either this is utter madness or it's the deepest biological truth of the universe. And he stakes his life on it being the truth. So let's look at this vision. The text describes a future human, what it calls the sixth race, entering a penultimate epoch where the physical sexual urge experiences a steep, permanent decline.
Which would naturally lead to a dramatic decrease in the global population.
Right.
But the source argues this isn't caused by a biological failing or some apocalyptic disaster. The decline in the sex drive is due to the sublimation of the astral body, which is the emotional body. Humanity will supposedly experience a dual awakening, so the temporary physical climax of sex will be entirely dwarfed by a sustained ecstatic state of energetic union.
The imagery the author uses here is wildly potent.
It is poetry.
It is. He describes it as two stars making love in the heavens, resulting in endless, infinite celestial orgasms. I mean, it reads like a sci-fi spiritual epic. And the byproduct of this permanent state of union is that the fear of death is entirely transcended.
Let's look at the logic the text uses to arrive there, because it's interesting.
Let's do it.
The source explains that fear operates as a boundary membrane. It creates the illusion of separate, isolated selves. When this genetic mutation reaches its apex, that membrane of fear dissolves. So if you no longer perceive yourself as a separate, fragile entity, the concept of individual death loses its terror. The text claims relationships will endure seamlessly from life to life with unbroken memory, because love has evaporated the veil of fear.
So the author describes humanity morphing into a supercell. One world, one people, one heart. He even jokes, the hippies are going to love this.
They really are.
But it's not just a drum circle of peaceful coexistence. The text outlines new crystalline structures and sacred geometries governing how we connect.
Right. The implication is that the traditional dyad, the couple, will no longer be the default structure. Humans will connect in threes, fours, and vast geometric networks, experiencing a shared orgy of ecstatic union at a subtle, energetic level, completely devoid of physical sexual desire.
Okay, my brain short-circuits a bit trying to picture a non-sexual geometric collective orgasm.
It's a lot to visualize.
It's a lot, but it brings up a very practical fear for me. If we are all merging into this telepathic supercell of shared awareness, do we lose our individuality? Like, do I just dissolve into a giant blob of cosmic soup?
The text anticipates that exact fear. It reassures the reader using a very specific paradox. It says we become an ocean of drops.
An ocean of drops. I like that. But let's ground it.
Okay.
It makes me think of a murmuration of starlings.
Oh, yeah?
You know, when you watch thousands of birds swooping and diving in the sky in perfect unison, it looks like one massive fluid organism.
It's beautiful.
It is. But if you zoom in, every single bird is flying autonomously. No bird has lost its physical form or its ability to flap its own wings, but their awareness is so deeply attuned to the birds next to them that they move as a single mind.
That is a brilliant translation of the concept. The author promises that in this state of transparency, every individual retains their creative uniqueness. You don't lose the I, you simply expand it to simultaneously include the we. You experience the full majesty of the collective without sacrificing your specific coordinates within it.
Which makes the whole vision feel significantly less intimidating.
Definitely.
But pulling back from the cosmic murmuration of starlings, how does the author expect us to apply this fairy tale vision to, like, a Tuesday morning?
Right, back to reality.
Yeah, the hope seems to be that zooming out to this grand evolutionary endpoint puts our current petty struggles into profound perspective.
That is exactly the application. The text emphasizes that every single time you process a piece of pain privately, every time you choose to metabolize a trigger in your living room instead of screaming at your spouse, you aren't just improving your marriage.
You're doing something bigger.
You are actively clearing space in the collective genetic code. You are paving the way for that future transparency.
It frames the 59th gene key as a ruthless but ultimately compassionate force. The mandate here is to breathe, to be incredibly gentle with yourself, to observe your instinct, to project blame, to take ownership of that heavy luggage, and most importantly, to forgive yourself when you inevitably fail and snap at someone anyway.
Because it's hard.
Because this is an evolutionary process and it is inherently messy.
The goal is to keep the vision of the universal heart, that ocean of drops in your mind's eye. It serves as a stabilizing North Star, ensuring you don't get entirely swept away by the chaos and upheaval that naturally occurs as a species purges its ancestral wounds.
Which leads me to a final thought I want to leave you with, something that builds on a very brief, mind-bending detail in the text.
Okay, what is it?
The source mentions in passing that in this final epic of transparency, time itself will dissolve. Now, we obviously aren't there yet. But if time is ultimately an illusion destined to collapse, and all our messy relationship struggles are just ancient luggage burning away to form one massive shared heart, how does that alter the way you view the person who just cut you off in traffic?
Oh, that changes everything.
Or the partner who left their dishes in the sink for the third day in a row? What if that mundane daily frustration isn't just an annoyance, but your own eternal geometry standing right in front of you, waiting to be integrated?
It radically recontextualizes the friction of everyday life. The obstacle is the path.
It really is. Until next time, keep unpacking.